In the middle of the 19th century, China was torn apart by a war so destructive that its death toll may have rivaled, or even exceeded, many of the most infamous conflicts in modern history. It was not a war between China and a foreign empire. It was a civil war fought inside the Qing dynasty, between the imperial state and a revolutionary movement that called itself the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. From 1850 to 1864, armies marched across central and southern China, cities were besieged, villages were emptied, and entire regions were transformed into battlefields. Conservative estimates place the dead at around 20 to 30 million people. Some higher estimates climb far beyond that. Whatever the exact number, the Taiping Rebellion was one of the deadliest human disasters of the 19th century. To understand how a rebellion could become so enormous, it helps to begin with the condition of Qing China before the uprising. The Qing dynasty had ruled China since the 17th century, but by the 1800s its authority was under strain. Population growth placed intense pressure on land and food supplies. Corruption weakened local administration. Natural disasters and economic hardship made life unstable for millions of peasants. At the same time, foreign pressure was increasing, especially through the Opium Wars, which exposed the military and diplomatic weakness of the Qing state. Many ordinary people saw the dynasty not as a source of order, but as distant, exploitative, and increasingly unable to protect them from crisis. The man at the center of the rebellion was Hong Xiuquan, an ethnic Hakka from southern China. Hong was not born a general or a prince. He was a failed examination candidate, part of a society where success in the imperial exams could transform a family's future. After repeated failures, Hong experienced visions that he later interpreted through a Christian lens. He came to believe that he was the younger brother of Jesus Christ, chosen to cleanse China of evil and establish a heavenly order on earth. His beliefs were not standard Christianity, but a syncretic movement combining Christian ideas, Chinese social grievances, apocalyptic expectation, and revolutionary political ambition. Hong's message attracted followers because it was more than a private religious claim. It promised a new social world. The Taiping movement denounced the Qing rulers, who were Manchu rather than Han Chinese, and called for the overthrow of the dynasty. But the rebellion went further than replacing one ruling house with another. The Taiping aimed to remake society itself. They promoted communal ideals, strict moral codes, religious conversion, and a radical break from many established customs. To supporters suffering under poverty, inequality, and local oppression, the movement could appear as a total answer: spiritual salvation, social justice, and political revolution fused into one cause. The uprising began in 1850 and quickly grew beyond a local disturbance. Taiping forces proved disciplined, motivated, and capable of defeating Qing troops. Their armies expanded through southern China, drawing in peasants, miners, marginalized communities, and people displaced by instability. As they moved, they were not merely raiding, they were trying to build an alternative state. The movement's most dramatic success came in 1853, when Taiping forces captured Nanjing, one of China's great cities. They renamed it Tianjin, meaning the heavenly capital, and made it the center of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. At its peak, the kingdom ruled over nearly 30 million people. The capture of Nanjing changed the rebellion from a regional revolt into a direct existential challenge to the Qing dynasty. From their new capital, the Taiping controlled important territory in the Yangtze River Valley, one of China's economic and strategic heartlands. The Yangtze was not just a river, it was a commercial artery linking cities, grain supplies, and tax revenues. Control over this region meant control over resources that the Qing state desperately needed. For more than a decade, central and southern China became the theater of a vast struggle. The war disrupted agriculture, trade, administration, and daily life on a scale that is difficult to overstate. The Taiping Rebellion was also marked by extraordinary brutality. The conflict was ideological, ethnic, political, and social all at once, which made compromise almost impossible. Taiping forces carried out massacres of Manchus, the ethnic group associated with the Qing ruling house. The Qing, in turn, responded with ruthless campaigns against rebel-held areas and civilian populations suspected of supporting them. Cities that changed hands could face slaughter, looting, and starvation. Nanjing itself would later suffer terrible violence when Qing forces retook it. The war's death toll came not only from battle, but also from famine, disease, displacement, destroyed harvests, and the collapse of ordinary protection. Despite their early momentum, the Taiping faced serious internal weaknesses. One of their major failures was the campaign toward Beijing between 1853 and 1855, which did not succeed in toppling the dynasty at its northern center. Even more damaging were internal power struggles. In 1856, an attempted coup and violent infighting shattered the unity of the movement's leadership. Revolutionary movements often depend on discipline and shared purpose, especially when fighting a stronger state. The Taiping's internal conflicts weakened trust, disrupted command, and damaged their ability to coordinate strategy. The Heavenly Kingdom still held territory, but its chance to decisively defeat the Qing had begun to fade. The Qing dynasty survived in part because it adapted. Instead of relying only on the traditional imperial military system, Qing loyalists increasingly depended on provincial armies raised and commanded by regional leaders. The most important of these was the Xiang Army, organized by Zhang Guofan. This shift mattered enormously. It gave the Qing side more effective fighting forces, rooted in local networks, personal loyalty, and regional financing. But it also changed the balance of power inside China. The dynasty was saved by decentralizing military authority, empowering provincial elites who would later become harder for the central government to control. Zhang Guofan's forces slowly turned the tide. One of the key moments was the recapture of Anqing, a strategic city on the Yangtze. Taking Anqing helped open the route toward Nanjing and tightened the pressure on the Taiping capital. In May 1862, Qing forces began a long siege of Nanjing. Siege warfare was especially devastating because it turned a city into a trap. Food supplies dwindled, disease spread, morale collapsed, and civilians suffered alongside soldiers. The Taiping leadership, already weakened by factionalism and military setbacks, became increasingly isolated. Their heavenly capital was now surrounded by a state that had learned how to fight them. Hong Xiuquan died on June 1, 1864, during the siege of Nanjing. Accounts connect his death to the desperate conditions inside the city, including the consumption of weeds from the palace grounds, though suspicions of poisoning also circulated. His death came at the worst possible moment for the Taiping cause. The movement had been built around his religious authority and prophetic identity. Without him, and with the capital starving and encircled, the Heavenly Kingdom was near collapse. Barely a month later, Nanjing fell. Qing troops entered the city, and the rebellion's central power was destroyed, though scattered Taiping forces continued fighting for years. The Qing dynasty won the war, but victory came at a terrible price. The rebellion had devastated some of China's most important regions and exposed the fragility of imperial rule. The state's survival depended increasingly on regional military leaders, not simply on central authority. After the Taiping, the Qing pursued reforms known as the self-strengthening movement, trying to modernize military and industrial capacity while preserving the dynasty. But the deeper problem remained. Central control had been weakened, social unrest continued, and foreign pressure did not disappear. The rebellion did not immediately end the Qing dynasty, but it helped set China on the road toward the political fragmentation that followed in the early 20th century. The Taiping Rebellion is sometimes overshadowed in global memory by wars fought in Europe or by later world wars, but its scale was staggering. It was a religious revolution, a civil war, an ethnic conflict, a social uprising, and a state-building project all at once. It began with one man's visions and grew into a movement powerful enough to rule millions and threaten one of the world's largest empires. Its defeat preserved the Qing dynasty for a time, but also hollowed it out from within. The lesson of the Taiping Rebellion is not only that civil wars can destroy lives on an unimaginable scale, but that a state can survive a catastrophe and still be permanently changed by it. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.